the Within Orb podcast. Come get Within Orb. Hello, my name is Jenn Zahrt, and welcome to Within Orb, a production of the Celestial Arts Education Library, a podcast bringing people together around the love of astrology, books. Join me as I interview people about the astrology books that changed their life and practice. You can support the podcast at withinorb.com. Welcome to another episode of Within Orb, and today we're going to meet the Wild Witch of the West down in the Bay Area, Rebecca M. Farrar, M.A. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jen. And I love that I add my little MA in the bio because I'm like, if you how much for a grad degree, like I want it to be named.
Absolutely. And we need more astrologers with degrees just to kind of poke the system back, don't we?
Yes, I agree. Not in an elitist way, but in a it's a different approach way.
Absolutely. Yes. Because, the system's sort of saying, well, astrology is not really a part of us. We can study it like we're going to dissect a frog. And it's like, oh, really? Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. And group learning. To me, it's like astrology just comes alive when you actually get to really be in communities and have those conversations, not just self-study where you're reading books. Just kidding.
Yes, absolutely.
Reading books is great too.
Well, people can read books together, CAELi.
Yes. Yes.
So let's jump in. Speaking of books, what was your first astrology book?
So I went big. My first astrology book was Cosmos and Psyche. I mean, it was assigned in my grad school class. And I used to think astrology was really stupid. Sun sign astrology, I didn't really get it. I didn't resonate with my sign. And then I read Cosmos and Psyche and I was like, oh, the planets are what activate me. The history of cycles of time in the planets are what I noticed. So yeah, that was a game changer for me to become a believer or to understand that the cycles were bigger than just me.
Right. I'm glad that was on your syllabus. So Rick Tarnas's book did what it was supposed to do.
It was in his program, so he better have it on his syllabus. It was his class, so yes, I would assume his book was on his syllabus.
Life goals: write a book, get a program, make your students read the book.
Yes, make them read it, and then just talk about everything that's in the book. Really well
That's
done.
So cool.
Buy my book and be in my class.
Right. Well, you got transmissions straight from the author then, and that's even cooler.
Yes, it's true. I feel really honored that I got to really get it firsthand from him. And, it's such a dense book that there was something about really getting to hear it as you're reading it from the same person where the threads just felt so similar.
The ultimate reading group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody and listening now is super envious.
I mean, I only paid $150K for that program. So, if you too can...
it's a lot cheaper to be a member of CAELi.
Yes. And at the time, I didn't know. I just thought I was going to become a philosopher. Did not think I was going to be an astrologer. So I
love that.
Yeah. I just thought I was going to get a PhD, become a philosopher, and then did my thesis research on how language changes over time. And was like, oh, all these words are connected to the stars. Maybe I do like astrology. Maybe the words I'm speaking are linked to the cosmos. So yeah, I just thought astrology was weird. And here I am doing it full time for the last decade.
Amazing. You can still be a philosopher though.
I think of myself as a philosopher. I would put those two identities together because, the first philosophers were also the first astrologers and astronomers. But I think when you're working as an astrologer, I don't know that people are as oh, you're also a philosopher. I think it's more of yeah, I'll stick with the astrologer title when I'm seeing clients.
Yeah, people don't really sign up for a philosophy consultation, do they?
No.
But they get it. They get it by way of the stars, no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I infuse, it's the philosophy is behind the sessions, right? It's informing the sessions, but I'm not doing a lecture, a philosophical lecture during. It's a little bit more relational than just a...
Got it. Yeah, but sometimes the advice that the stars are suggesting is a bit philosophical in nature, consider it like this. And the person's wow, maybe.
Well, do you just said the word consider. Did you use that on purpose? Do you know what consider means?
I do. And you caught me, and I wasn't actively thinking about it,
Amazing.
But tell the audience.
Well, desire and consider were the two words that informed my thesis research. And
okay.
Consider means to divine from the stars. So it's literally people would sit under the stars to consider, to get the information they needed. to decide what to do. So I love that you just, how can we not say the word consider when we're talking about astrology?
It's exactly the exact same thing, honestly. Where did desire come in? How did that one fit in?
Yeah, so desire, I mean, this one's just so romantic. But the first lecture I ever did at Esalen in my grad school program was just desire. And desire is about whispering what the stars bring. So there was this idea that we desired something because it came from a star.
Wow.
That there was like a star in the heavens being like, hey, you should do this. And I'm like, oh, I desire blah, blah, blah. I think I take it a step more romantic, where I like to think of Plato had that idea of companion stars, where there was like a star that corresponded to us in the heavens. And so I like to believe it was the companion star that actually whispers to us, not just a random star.
Our star partner.
Our star partner. Maybe a twin flame, a flame of fire in the cosmos.
A literal nuclear ball of gas.
A literal nuclear ball.
Everybody, go get one. All right. So
speaking of yours, make sure you're talking to yours.
So yeah, we'll send you off to the desert island now, and deserted island, let's say. And you can pack your bags. You get an ephemeris because it's just a necessary tool. Mm-hmm. But you can also take 3 books. What are they going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still go with Cosmos and Psyche just because it's endless reading.
Okay.
It's just so dense that every single sentence is like, you could consider that sentence for like a whole day. I would also put in there Barbara Hand Clow's Astrology and the Rising of Kundalini.
Tell me more about this one, because this is a lesser picked book.
I mean, I think what I love about it is it really maps out that journey of Saturn return, Uranus opposition, Chiron return. Like, it really kind of gives you this journey of like these major milestones and kind of what you notice in the shifting of your consciousness.
You would not get that from the title of this book, because I know Barbara Hand Clow is very well known for her Chiron book. It's very bright.
Yes.
And well designed. You can see it from across the room.
I love that book.
But this one, I would never have thought to pick this up if I'm in my 40s. I mean, it sounds like that's what it is. It's like, okay, you've like 30 up to 50, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not called Astrology of Midlife. It's called The Rising of Kundalini.
Yeah. I mean, and I think she's really trying to understand like how the chakras line up with these different processes of the psyche. I mean, this is such a astrologer thing to say. I don't know that I agree with everything in the book. I don't know that I would map the chakras in the same way that she does in terms of what they correlate to with different planets and planetary bodies. But there was something about reading this and being like, oh, really getting like the unfolding journey that you could use that lens with. Also, I think anybody who's like meditated or has that Kundalini lens living in ashram, it's like there's a word that has this potency to it. And so anyway, I just really appreciated like, oh, I can see an unfolding journey here. And she's helping me kind of figure out where to focus in each of those journeys.
Love it. Does she mention perimenopause at all?
No, but I mean, that's obviously Uranus opposition, right?
I'm just thinking about like, who is this directed towards in this like pathway motif, like is it a book that's intended for people going through that life transition, or is it more just, it could kind of be anybody between the ages of Saturn return and Chiron return?
I feel like it's kind of anyone in that mix, maybe kind of looking ahead, but also looking back. But yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if it's geared towards anyone specific. I'd be curious actually if she felt like it was for someone specific. And I think it's, I don't practice Kundalini yoga, but I like to think about my chakras sometimes.
Yeah, so. Right. Do you think she has anything specifically interesting to add about the Saturn return, Uranus opposition, and Chiron return that you haven't seen in a different book?
I don't know that there was anything necessarily new and novel about those transitions, but I will say that putting them with the chakra system was like, oh, she's doing something different here and really wants to give people like a visual of how things build this way. And then we get more wisdom and there is more of that focus of like enlightenment as we get older. And, there was something she does talk about with, 40, and even Jung would say that that's when life really begins. And I think the way that she mentions the Uranus opposition at that time of like really working with that electricity of where we put our energy. And I think that for me was like, oh yeah, she seems to have I feel like the Uranus opposition part that she does in that book to me is my favorite part.
So life begins around the Uranus opposition, ostensibly 40 to potentially sometimes 44, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? I forget what planetary motion makes it go later for some people.
Well, I was just always assuming it was like based on if their Uranus was retrograde or not, or like that retrograde cycle. Because yeah, I'm a later one.
Yeah.
Some people are early.
It's wild. I have to check that out. We have to go back to Cosmos and Psyche. You've got the whole kit. You can do it.
I mean, that's more of like, let's go Uranus, Pluto, let's go Uranus, Jupiter, let's go Uranus.
Yeah, and we're about to have Saturn, Neptune, so, whoosh.
Yeah. I mean, that book, again, timeless. I would never get bored on that island. But I'd probably lose track of time and wouldn't really fully know maybe what thing. I mean, I was like, history and everything feels like it might merge when you're on a desert island. Like maybe I'd be like a weird vortex of past, future.
That seems amazing. Isn't that sort of the now that we're always looking for, in a way?
Yeah, I mean, now we're getting philosophical too.
It never leaves. It never leaves you. Uranus opposition is where life begins. In my conversations with people over the years, some of my favorite decade is actually the 60s to 70s.
Ooh.
They just have the most fun.
That makes sense. They've kind of like, I would like to believe, maybe according to Barbara Ann Clow, that the Kundalini has risen far enough that they're just like not trapped by these other ways of being.
Yeah, I mean, if they decided to do the family thing, that's over and done, and their kids are having kids, and they can just sit around all day playing poker and tangoing.
I'm ready for that.
Right? I'm like, oh, life begins at 60. Like this whole middle part, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what I think of this middle part. It's like,
right?
We're headed right over that edge, and
yeah. So I always try to give the people in their 50s some hope. Like, oh, just wait till you turn 60. It's gonna get good. Because all your triplicity rulers shift too,
Right.
So anyway, very cool. Well, I'll have to pick that one up. I've never actually looked at it because I wasn't that interested in Kundalini, but now that I know that it's got information about those other cycles.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I need to say, like, I don't think I'm a huge Kundalini person. Like, I lived in an ashram in my 20s, but I wouldn't say I'm like a Kundalini person. But there is just like, something great about a different lens of the unfolding.
Sure.
And that order that I really liked.
Well, and the other thing I'm loving too is that you're like, I don't exactly agree with everything in this book. So it's not like you're bringing a book that you're a mega fan of. You're bringing something that's going to be a little bit irritating so that you have to say, this is a position and now my position's here. I'm going to think about it.
Right. But also, Jen, if I'm on a desert island, what if I get into Kundalini yoga? Like, what if that's what ends up happening? Like, I just don't know.
Is that your desire?
I don't know that it is, but you just don't know who you're going to become, right? You just don't know who you're going to become.
I think your star partner wants you to get into Kundalini yoga.
My companion star's
your companion star's like,
Kundalini yoga.
Imagine stepping into a room of 5,000 astrology books, turning a corner and stepping into a room of 2,000 more. The Celestial Arts Education Library is every astrologer's dream, and it can be yours. I invite you to come support CAELi before you can visit physically. Your support will mean the creation of 52 new episodes of Within Orb next year, 4 issues of the CAELi Review, our inaugural journal, and countless book talks, events, classes for our community. Visit our website, www.caeli.institute/support, to select your level of care. Please help support CAELi into the future, our future, so that we may study the future together. Thank you for listening. Please enjoy the rest of the show. What is the third book you have in your bag?
Healing Pluto Problems. I mean, Donna Cunningham, as someone who has moon opposite Pluto as my tightest aspect, this book was like, oh, I am not paying enough attention by Pluto. Thank goodness she wrote this book. So I can really look at like all the different variations of that spectrum of how that archetype might show up in me.
Wow.
That was my like, okay. And I keep it nearby when I start to feel some of that, like, okay, I'm like feeling kind of frustrated, but like really hiding and don't want to be seen, and really contracted, but like there's some way I'm not bringing myself forward and I'm withholding. It's like, it really helps bring me back to, okay, this is my Pluto problem. How do I get that part more integrated so it's not taking over so much?
Does everybody have a Pluto problem?
I think her thinking is that she calls them Plutonians, people who have really strong aspects. And I think that's also why I like that book is, so much of the archetypal astrologer orientation with Rick is like, I don't really care about the signs that much. So to have a whole book just on one archetype and to understand Plutonians as like, yeah, people who that planet just has more of kind of an influence based on their aspects or whatever else was like, oh, yeah, I don't want to identify as a Plutonian, but I am. And that book was like, oh, right. We all have Pluto problems, and some of us have those problems a little bit bigger.
I met her,
Really?
Yeah, it was one of the first astrologers I ever met in Portland.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, the Portland community in the late 90s. She was giving a class on the Northwest 23rd Street area, and I just got in my car. I was like a brand new driver, and I'm like, I'm going to go to Donna Cunningham's class. And I just rocked up and took her class.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just had to talk about Pluto. I'm feeling jealous.
Oh, no.
Like,
you would have had to be into astrology in like 1997 to do that, really.
yeah, I think I was like dabbling, but not really into it till maybe like fully until 2010.
Yeah, that was like a whole lifetime ago.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they recently coming out with a new version of that book because I think it went out of print for a while and they didn't know if her works were under copyright or such. But I think I've seen a new cover of Healing Pluto Problems.
Oh my God, amazing. Okay,
yeah.
I would be so curious. I mean, I probably could use an update version one, but wow, I still can't believe you got to meet it. That's amazing.
Is yours tattered, your copy of that book?
Yeah, it's just gotten like the cover just has a discoloration and I think it was pre-owned, so there's just like underlined and all sorts of other things. So might be time for a new Healing Pluto Problems.
Pluto's taking I guess it just went into Aquarius, but it feels like Saturn and Neptune are like taking center stage in this year,
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, gosh, I think it depends on your chart. I feel like I'm very much focused on Pluto.
For sure. Okay, so now that you are an astrological philosopher and Wild Witch of the West, I would love to know if someone comes up to you, like I did when I was, a little baby astrologer with my new driver's license going to see Donna. If I came to you and said, teach me astrology, what would you put in my hands? What books would you give me?
Yeah, so I do this a lot where I have like a list on my website for people of like the resources that I really love. And so I just was looking at that and I was like, right, I think the two books I recommend the most are Laurence Hillman, Planets in Play, just because I think it does such a great job of like really getting to the basics of the planets and like how they interact. And I don't know if you know Ver de Luz.
I've seen the name, but I have not met this person.
Okay. I had a session with them when I lived in Colorado. They also lived in Colorado. I mean, probably 20 years ago that I had this session. And I just remember, those astrologers are just kind of like in their own world.
Yeah.
That's the way I experience Ver de Luz. But the book is just so great at mapping out the archetypes in a way that's like, okay, here's what this planet, here's the beautiful sides, here's the difficult sides, here's what it looks like in this house. It's just a really good basics book. I mean, it came out ages ago, but I always recommend that one. And it's about astrology, but it also really goes into more of the philosophical of like, what is the value of astrology as a sacred language? And, it has this kind of real new agey lean to it that I think, I don't know if I read it first, I might have been a little turned off by, but I think we're in a phase of kind of the pop new age astrology in some ways. So I think people might find it really accessible in that way.
Very cool. Archetypes first.
Archetypal forward, which is why I think just being in that lineage, that was like, okay, yeah, this is a great place to start for me.
Yeah. How do you find it interfacing with astrologers who are very sign-based? Is there a kind of communication error or shift happening? Just in your experience of being somebody who's so archetypally founded, like when there's a sort of more sign-based astrologer who's very concerned with the signs of the zodiac as opposed to the archetypes?
I mean, I find it's like with even Vedic astrology, like we all may start at different places, but we get to a similar place together. So I don't know that I feel like, oh, sign first. I mean, a lot of people also really focus on houses, and that's not something that archetypal astrology puts a lot of emphasis on. Our rulerships are more modern. So I think I just feel always really curious in general of like, oh, you got to it that way, but it feels like we're getting to the same place.
I love that. That's really cool.
So yeah, I try not to be too much of a stickler around like the archetypes are my thing. And I think it's fun when I have clients where they have a certain lens and they're really focused on the signs. I'm like, cool. And another way why you might be feeling that is because this is an aspect to your sun or whatever else it is. So
Yeah. So in your work then, because you were looking at how language changes over time, do you have ideas or thoughts about how the astrology community is speaking to itself?
oh, well, you just threw that one in.
Just a casual question.
A casual question. Wowzers. For me, I feel really embedded in the archetypal astrology community, and I feel like I follow a lot of people online. But I have been a little bit more of just like, I don't know that I put myself really out there as much. So I don't know if I really can speak to what I think the language is of how people are using or speaking it. I think what I would love though is I think it'd be really interesting if people just like really spoke a lot about the lineage that they learned from more.
Yeah.
Because what I find is people get really confused when they're learning astrology is they're like, oh, this astrologer says this and this astrologer says this. And I would love if there was kind of like an automatic, like, oh, most of the things that I'm sharing are from an archetypal lens. And so if you're using humanistic or you're using Hellenistic, you might not hear the same thing. And it doesn't mean it's that person is wrong. It's just a different lineage.
I love that. That's awesome. I do think that's really an improvement that we could make in terms of sort of, not only honoring the people who taught us, but also letting others know the diversity of what's possible in terms of, okay, well, there's a psychological interpretation of Saturn, but there's also an archetypal interpretation. And those two things are not the same, even though it kind of sounds like they might be.
Right. And like, I love traditional astrology, even though I'm practicing archetypal astrology. It doesn't mean I think that you shouldn't listen to someone who's, really has a different rulership. It just means like, oh yeah, just know that that person's coming from this place. I'm coming from this place. And you get to choose as a learner which one feels better to you.
Yeah. And also where you want to look and what problems you want to solve, right? It's not a matter of saying like, oh, well, there's only one obviously there's more than one kind of astrology, but they're all kind of solving a different problem set.
For some reason, I just love the way you said that because you used your hands in this way. And I was like, really felt it. Like, yeah, different problem set. Yes, Jen, that's exactly what it is.
Soul problems, Pluto problems. Thanks,
totally
Donna.
Pluto problems. Planetary problems.
Timing problems, electional problems, right?
Kundalini problems.
Kundalini problems, right? Desire problems. Solve your desires with astrology. Wow. Okay. So what are you up to these days and where can people find you?
So, my website's wildwitchwest.com and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I haven't moved away from Meta. I don't know how that's going to happen, but most of my work is actually just one-on-one sessions. That's where I really get my juice. That's been my bread and butter for the last decade. And every time I try to step out of like, oh, more classes or more, it's like, I just really love the intimacy of those one-on-ones. So
amazing.
That's 90% of what I do.
Congratulations on building such a successful practice.
Oh,
that is not easy to do.
Oh, that is not easy. It is ups and downs and unstable incomes and month-to-month differences. And like, I somehow have made it work. And I think I'm still a little in shock, to be honest. Self-employment is not for the faint of heart.
Well, congratulations. And thank you for taking time to share your desires and considerations.
I was hoping you just finished with some of those words again. No, well, thank you for having me. I was really excited to just get to like in conversation with other astrologers. It's just a totally different world.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you and the work that you're doing and just want to honor and appreciate that work.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for listening to Within Orb. To learn more about the Celestial Arts Education Library, or to become a member, visit our website at CAELi.institute. That's www.caeli.institute. If you enjoyed this episode, please help spread the word. Follow or subscribe to Within Orb in your podcatcher of choice, rate it 5 stars, or write us a happy review. This helps others find the show. We also want to give a big thanks to the indie band The E-Block for contributing their song Wake Up for our intro and outro music. You can find them at their website, eblockband.com. This is Jenn Zahrt, signing off for now. See you next time.